Hey everybody, it's Larry with Hobby Progress, and today we're going to take you into the tasting room with a twist. So, you've seen my beer videos and a little bit of tasting there. Today I'm going to take you into cigars. So, one of the things I really enjoy about trying new beers is trying to pair them with cigars. You may have heard me in a couple of the videos um, trying to pair a couple of the beers with a cigar. So now I'm going to try to show you a little bit about that. So today, um, I'm going to show you with a generic, one that I enjoy. It's called a clone. This is a Rocky Patel clone. So it's just a cheap cigar, but it's one I sincerely enjoy. So um, we're just going to run you through the basics of cigars here real quick, just so you can kind of pick out something that you might enjoy and then smoke it with confidence so you kind of get the gist of it. So with this cigar, this one's a dark cigar. So you'll notice the wrapper color of it. So the wrapper is the whole leaf that they wrap around the outside. The darker, usually, just like beer, the darker the flavor. So it'll be sharper and more intense. The lighter the wrapper, usually the smoother, but the less sharp the flavor will be. So this cigar, while cheap, is still a premium cigar. So it's hand rolled. Um, it's like I said, it's a clone. It's a knockoff of a Rocky Patel. So um, if you like dark beers, if you're a lot like me, you're going to want a slightly darker cigar. Because I like to go like for like with my pairings. So if I'm going to have a really dark, intense beer, I like to have a really dark and intense cigar. I don't want my beer overpowering my cigar, or vice versa. So I just want to go straight at it. The other thing is you're going to need a cutter. This is a cigar cutter. It's got two blades that pinch together. These are some of my favorite cutters. They're relatively inexpensive, but you don't need them. You can get away with a regular old pocket knife. It's a little harder, but you can do it. Definitely recommend going to your local cigar shop or Amazon and picking up one of these. You should be able to get one for less than $40. Definitely worth it. The other thing, you're going to need a lighter. Can't light a cigar without fire. I use cheap Bic knockoff lighters. You can get these for like $20 for 100 of them. They're very inexpensive and they work. I refuse to light a cigar with a fuel lighter. So Zippos, I do not like for lighting cigars. I believe that you can get the fuel flavor into the cigar. Therefore, I do not like them. You'll see a lot of people that say that you have to have a wood match to light a cigar. I disagree. Also, torches are very popular. So butane high power torches. They will light your cigar faster and they will probably light your cigar more even, but they will not affect the flavor one way or another. These little lighters are just fine. Like I said, you can get them at any gas station for $1, or you can buy them online incredibly cheap. So that's what we're going to be using today. So once you have your cigar, you're going to want to cut the end of it off. This is going to be where you draw from, and how deep you cut is going to affect the depth of draw that you get, and uh, the kind of the flavor. Not really. More or less the depth of the draw. So if you cut just the very, very tip of it off, it will draw a lot harder and it'll be harder to keep lit. If you cut too deep, it will be a really open draw. You'll get a lot of air. It'll be harder to keep lit because it'll be harder to keep from getting too hot. Let me put it that way, because you'll be drawing a lot on it. And the wrapper will start coming undone. So what you're going to want to do is look at the end of the cigar. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see it on the video, But right about here, you can see that line. I think you can see it on the video. Either way, you can kind of see the cap. So the cigar is rolled in such a way that there is a little cap at the end that is meant to be cut off. Okay, so if you can find that, great. If not, what you want to do is, like anything else, you're going to want to cut just a little bit, because you can always cut more. You can't put it back on. So you'll take your cutter and place it on top of the cigar. All right. So you don't put very much in, and you're going to want to take just a cap off. All right. All right, so you can kind of see there, it's a little fuzzy. You can kind of see there, I didn't take very much off at all. I probably didn't take enough off. But what you can do is you can taste it a little bit. I always dab my tongue to the end of the cut because you're going to get just a little bit of leaf off the end. So you dab that out, spit it out. Then you take a sample draw. If you've cut enough to where the draw feels good, leave it. I actually like the way I cut this one. These cigars are not rolled super tight, so they draw incredibly smooth. So you don't have to have a huge cut for them to draw well. If you did not cut enough, again, snip a little bit more off. Not going to hurt the cigar. Don't go crazy. Don't cut the whole depth of the cigar off. It will come unraveled. You will have a bad smoking experience. All right. So now that you've got it cut, now we can go to lighting it. When you light your cigar, you do not want to get it too hot. So you're going to want to take your lighter and light it, and then hold it underneath the cigar for a little bit. You're going to want to get it nice and good. And then you're going to want to hold the flame. Do not dip the cigar into the flame. You're going to want to hold the flame just at the tip of the cigar. And you're going to want to take long, slow draws. And then rotate the cigar a little bit. And then take a long, slow draw. And you're going to want to do this about 3 times as you get the whole circumference of the cigar lit. Once you get the whole circumference of the cigar lit, then you can... I usually turn the cigar, make sure I've got it lit. I can fix any pieces that I don't have completely lit. And then you can go to smoking normally. What I mean by smoking normally is, again, you usually take a decent little draw, like not like a short draw, but a slow draw, and then exhale, and then you take a long draw and hold, and then you blow it out. That allows you to prime it, then draw in the flavor, enjoy the flavor, and then exhale the flavor. All right? Now, when I say draw in, I mean to draw into your mouth. So you're going to treat the cigar kind of like a straw. So you're going to want to use your tongue to create suction to draw the smoke into your mouth. You do not want to inhale the cigar. This is incredibly harsh smoke and will not feel good on your lungs. And you'll end up ruining your smoking experience by doing so. All right, we'll get into more of that in a minute. Right now, I'm going to show you how to light a cigar properly. So you take your lighter, you get your flame going, you can warm it, and then you draw. You see how I turn the cigar all the way around? I blow on it gently just to get the ashes on the very end a little red. And that way I can see if I missed any spots. This time, I did a pretty good job. I didn't miss any spots. That is not always the case. So now that you've got it lit, you don't have to go crazy puffing on a cigar. A lot of times it will keep itself lit. You do have to puff on it occasionally, or it will go out. So, because I just lit it, I didn't smoke it exactly like I told you should, because it's still a little warm. So again, we're gonna use your tongue to create a little bit of suction and just draw the smoke nice and easy into your mouth, okay? So you take a nice even draw, exhale, then take a nice good draw, hold, and then breathe out, just like this. That first little bit got the cigar nice and warm, burned the tobacco up a little. Then the second one got me the full flavor of the cigar. It was very enjoyable. This cigar has got a little bit of a sharp flavor to it, but it's dark, it's smooth. It gives me everything I want in a cigar. This is honestly one of my favorites. It's an everyday smoke. I really enjoy it, and it pairs well with everything. If you watched one of my previous videos in the tasting room, you saw me drink the Evil Twin Brewing Even More Jesus. I'm doing this video, and I poured myself one of those beers. I think these are going to pair extremely well together. So let's try it. They really do. Man, they do. So, if you remember from my tasting video, the Even More Jesus is a 12% alcohol by volume imperial stout. I said I could find almost any flavor in it. It was incredibly smooth and was just a wonderful beer. Pairing it with a cigar works wonderfully. Where the Even More Jesus is smooth and clean, this cigar is sharp and bitter. So it gives me a good contrast. What one doesn't give me, the other does. And I really enjoy that. Yeah, the flavors just complement each other wonderfully. The other thing I'm going to cover with this cigar before we go is, and it sounds silly, but it's the proper way to hold a cigar. If you use your hand, you're going to hold it just a decent distance away from where you put your mouth on it, so you don't get your fingers all down in it, and hold it all the way inside your hand so you can get a decent grip on it. This is not a cigarette. These require a little more grip on it. Also, it doesn't make you look like a dandy by holding it all the way out on the tips of your fingers. Get a grip on it. Also, when you bring the cigar to your mouth, it is okay to leave your hand there for a little bit. You know, you're not going to, look like an idiot by doing this. It's okay to get your teeth on the cigar as well so you can hold it. Some people don't like that. I do. I think it's just fine. You get your lips up on the cigar so you can create a good solid seal and get a good draw on the cigar. The cheaper cigars sometimes have a bad wrapper and you won't get a good seal. Or if you accidentally cut the cigar far too deep with the cutter, like we talked about, the wrapper will begin to unbind and you will get air in the cigar. Excuse me, sorry. And you'll have to create another seal. We'll get to that here in a minute. But putting your teeth on the cigar allows you to hold it without having your hands there. Now, other things that we can get to. If you are smoking cheaper cigars, sometimes you will get splits in the wrapper. This is not a complete loss of your cigar. There are ways to save it. Or if your binder or if your wrapper begins to unravel, again, not a complete loss. It is a bummer, but you can save it. What you can do, so we'll start with, if you cut too deep and your wrapper starts to come off, lick your finger and lay the wrapper back over. You know, kind of wet that, and the binder will stick. Then you're going to want to, you know, pay attention to that zone. I usually try to keep that part of the cigar up and keep it rolled over. If it gets too bad, carefully tear that piece of tobacco off. But don't get carried away because you don't want to take the wrapper completely off. Then the inside of your cigar starts coming apart and you'll have a bad experience. If you get a split in the body of your cigar, you can do the same thing, except I usually don't even bother wetting my finger because you're not going to get it right. What you can do is you can take your cigar, find the split, and just run your tongue across it, just like you're wetting the letter, the seal on an envelope. Run your finger across it and then kind of smooth it off. You know, just kind of smooth it off with your finger. That will partially seal the wrapper back together. May not always work, and most of the time it's a quick fix. But sometimes you can fix a broken cigar that way. This usually only happens when a cigar is improperly stored. You let it get too dry. That the wrappers start to break like that. So, you know, you got to keep a cigar a certain way. We'll get to that in a later video, hopefully. All right. Now that I've smoked this one a little bit, we can start to see that it's burning uneven. And I'll show you how to work with that. All right. You can kind of see from this side to this side, my cigar is not burning even. This is a constant problem of a cigar smoker. Is one that I fight with to this day. It's super annoying. It does not affect the flavor at all. But it will affect the way the ash comes off the cigar. And eventually, once you get further down the cigar, it will start to affect the way it burns, and it will start going out more, and then you will have to relight, which will affect the flavor. So, attempt to keep the cigar long side up. This keeps the heat flowing into that side, and often will fix your problem if you keep it right. Smoke the cigar by rotating it. You know, keep it up a little bit on this side, take a few puffs, you notice it's starting getting long, rotate your cigar. Take a few more puffs. If you notice it'll start fixing itself. Maybe it won't. Sometimes cigars are just stubborn that way, and you can't get them to smoke even, regardless of what you do. But I find keeping the long side up helps the most. Which really is a good cigar. All right. If you get down into a cigar and it's either burned uneven or has just gone out because you're having a good conversation, and sometimes that happens, the best thing you can do is to get your ashtray. Wow, how unprepared am I? I don't have a cigar ashtray around. But you take your ashtray and you knock the ash off. All right? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the edge and you're going to want to knock it on your ashtray. Nice and smooth, just enough to knock the ash off. And then you're going to want to take the edge of your ashtray, right? So the corner, and you're going to want to roll your cigar against it. All right? This knocks the ash off nice and clean. All right? I haven't smoked this one enough to really get you, so a lot of that is still lit. Okay? So once you've rolled the loose ash out of the tip of your cigar, then you basically just go through the same process that I already showed you. You bring your fire up and you slowly roll your cigar through a light again. The further down the cigar you are, the less draw you're going to want to put on your cigar. Because if you get it too hot, you will start getting a lot of bitter flavors in your cigar. Flavors you don't want. This goes the same with smoking your cigar from the very beginning. If you try to smoke it too fast, it will get bitter, it will get hot. The longer your cigar, the less chance you have of having this happen to you. But as the cigar gets shorter and shorter, you will run into this as a problem. So even draws. What you've seen me do in this video is about as much spacing as you want to leave to keep good light and good flavor on your cigar. It's very good. But if you ever want to put your cigar out and try to save it for later, you're going to want to go through a whole different process. And it is incredibly difficult to get done right. But just go through the same process I just showed you. Knock it out. Roll the ash out. Then you're going to want to try to blow all the smoke back out the other end of your cigar. And then try to get it to where it's not smoking anymore. And then you're going to want to just lay your cigar down. All right? This goes for if you're just done with a cigar. Lay it down in the ashtray. It'll put itself out. Do not grind your cigar out like it's a cigarette. Okay? If you grind your cigar out like it's a cigarette, it will stink after a couple of hours. It will start to get really skunky and bad. It's a faux pas. It's something you don't want to do at a cigar shop. It makes you look like you don't know what you're doing because it's not nice to the other people sitting around you. It'll create a bad smell in the ashtray. Simply lay it down in the ashtray and walk away from it if you don't want it anymore, or let it burn itself out, blow the smoke out, and try to save it for later. Note, if you do blow the smoke out and try to save it for later, it will probably never taste the same as it did before. It will have a little bit more bitterness. It will have maybe even a skunky flavor to it because you've gotten the tobacco warm and dried out, and then you've gotten the tip of it wet. It's just not an ideal combo. But if you bit off a little more than you could chew with a cigar and you just didn't have the time to finish it, sometimes it's an option. But yeah, so that's basically the basics of smoking a cigar. I hope you enjoyed this. I really do. So if you go out, find yourself a cigar that you enjoy. Again, lighter colors are a little bit smoother. Darker colors, a little bit harsher. It's pretty simple. Pair it with a beer that fits the color of your cigar, and you won't go very far wrong. All right, if you like these videos, let me know about it. I can teach you a little bit more about cigars and beer tasting. Like and subscribe here on YouTube. Go and find me on Facebook under Hobby Progress. And thanks for watching.